All right, well, welcome in our good friend Corey Parsons at the Fantasy Exec, senior sports betting content creator at NBC Sports Bet. He's a great follow on Twitter. He's all over the place, and he provides very good sports gambling, sports betting knowledge, and always excellent insight. He's kind enough to join us on a Wednesday. How you been, Corey?
Rick, my man, what's going on with you? How you doing today?
I'm doing very well, and I always appreciate a couple moments of your time. How about that story coming down with the Nats? And
crazy, right?
That's crazy. And then you got the Urban Meyer story saying, well, you know what, we're going to cut you if you're not vaccinated. Yeah, I'm sure if that was Trevor Lawrence, that would have went over with the Jacksonville organization and the fan base. Then you got, the hoodie with Cam Newton, which, by the way, I do believe a small percentage of that was because he wasn't vaccinated.
I believe that large percentage of it was him not being vaccinated. First of all, shout out to Mac Jones for coming in and really winning the job. Mac Jones has been excellent. Back in April, he was my number 2 quarterback in this draft class. Just watching Mac Jones play for years. And then hearing what the other Alabama's players said about him. These guys played for Tua and Hurts, too. So, I kind of figured Mac Jones was going to go to New England and do a good job and win that job, and I figured he'd be in there by the time we got to October. He won the joint outright, straight up. So, congratulations to him. But the Cam Newton thing, I do believe that, if you're going to risk a player with these vaccination rules, we're going to risk a player, possibly maybe forfeit the game or causing all these hoops. You want it to be a player who's a need for starter.
No doubt.
And I think that him not being a starter and being unvaccinated made him, kind of expendable. So I really, Bill taking on to that's not what it was, but I'm pretty sure that played a role in it.
Yeah, I do too. And look, he's not the same quarterback. He had the great year in 2015, never recovered at all from that Super Bowl loss. And, he'll probably bounce around a little bit and hold a clipboard or be a backup. And, a lot of people are thinking, I'll come down to Houston because it doesn't look like Deshaun Watson's going to take another snap. I mean, look, I don't even know that whole Watson situation. If you actually looked at these games, right, knowing all this outside nonsense going on, right? You got the rumors of Watson, who was maybe going to get traded to Miami. Now, all of a sudden, they come out and they say, hey, Tua's going to be our guy. You got Trevor Lawrence behind no offensive line, losing a rookie running back. And then you got the situation in Houston with Watson. How were you, as a gambler, approach the first, say, 2, 3, 4 weeks of the NFL season? What's going to be your play?
I think you got to really back it down, really bring those units in a little bit closer. But I think what you do want to see is teams with continuity. Teams that had the same coach, the same coordinators, and the same quarterback in position for a couple seasons now. They kind of know what's going on. I think those want to be the teams you lean on to put your money on in those situations. I think trying to get out there and get too fancy, with some of these new teams and new situations and new head coaches, I think you kind of want to see how those situations play out. Obviously, it's been one less preseason game this year, so you're still going to see some effect of the preseason as we get to September. So I think you should tread water lightly as we start the season, but I do also think that there could be some opportunities with some of these teams that are, with some of these teams that have the same coaching staff and the same system in place for a while now.
It bothers me and it worries me when you're looking at some of these teams that are really scouring the wire for players, because that tells me either players went down or draft picks haven't panned out or they just didn't do their due diligence. And I'll give you a perfect example. My Giants. They're still scouring the wire to make some moves with that offensive line, which, again, I went back and I watched that preseason game against New England. Same thing. Red zone turnover by Jones, scrambling to his right, throwing across his body, throws a horrible pick, and then he comes back the next series and throws a nice touchdown toss. I mean, if you're looking at the Giants right now, and they open at home against Denver, on the road, short turnaround, by the way, Thursday night at Washington, back home against Atlanta, the Saints, who named Winston the starting quarterback, on the road, and then at the Cowboys. That's not the best stretch for the Giants to open up the season. How would you play the Giants?
I'm betting against them. I think the Giants will be a little bit of trouble this year. I think there's got to be some real soul searching done inside that organization. When you look at some of the draft picks, when you look at the quarterback situation, you got a stubborn general manager who's not going to want to admit to being wrong. Like I've been saying all along, the Giants should be in on Deshaun Watson. They should be in the information gathering process to see what's going on, turn over some rock, see what's going on behind the scenes there. I think they're in a little bit of trouble. And I think they can get up to a slow start this year. The Giants need to be in the market for a quarterback. But I don't think they want to admit it. I think Daniel Jones' best game was his first game.
No,
I think he's been 50-50 since then. We've seen some promises and flashes, but like you said, you still see some of those real bad turnovers. I think the Giants are in trouble this year. I don't think they're going to be as bad as Philadelphia will be, but I think the Giants are not going to be a team that's going to get anywhere near the playoffs. I think their win total is something around 7. I don't see them winning 7 games.
You see Washington repeating as NFC East champs?
Very well, could. I like it. They're strong in the trenches, on both sides of the trenches. They're good on their O-line. They're excellent on their D-line. They got some young talented playmakers with Terry McLaurin and Antonio Gibson. And you got a guy in Fitzpatrick who is not afraid to fire the football down the field and make some plays. So I think the football team can very well win the NFC East again. I think the football team is a playoff team this year. But listen what I say, Rich. Their season will end with Fitzpatrick throwing an interception.
Of course it will.
What week that's going to be? When that season finally does come to an end, it'll be Fitzpatrick throwing an interception.
No, I mean, you can almost script it. You can almost write it home, no doubt. There are a couple of teams I want to ask you about. When you look at their win total, and again, I'm always a believer in the first couple of weeks of the season. I kind of steer clear of certain player props, especially with young players, running backs, wide receivers. You know, a couple quarterbacks I might take a flyer on, like Lawrence I mentioned in the 4 o'clock hour. But give me your thoughts. When you look at the AFC East right now, New England's going with a young quarterback. Jets are going with a young quarterback. Miami's going to go with Tua. And then you have the longest tenured quarterback in that division in Josh Allen. To me, it seems as though the smart play here is to just hammer Buffalo, not only to win the AFC East, but definitely to hit their win total. Take the over on it.
Yeah, I like the Bills a lot. I think this is going to be a special year in Buffalo. And I'm looking at that football team, what they've been able to do. I mean, just put that roster together, the coaching staff. Still have some problems, some issues they're going to have to work out on defense. But I think Josh Allen, if Patrick Mahomes is LeBron James, Josh Allen is Luka Doncic, I think you got a very good young quarterback in Buffalo. I think he keeps getting better as he gets learns more and gets more comfortable. The coaching staff is put together well. They're going to have to run the football at some point. That's going to be an issue. We haven't seen them gotten that right and figured out yet between Zach Moss and Singletary. But when you look at what they can do throwing the football and with Josh Allen and playing just enough defense, and obviously it helps to play in the AFC East with, probably a 2-horse race this year. But the division is better. Miami is better, and I think the Ravens is going to be much improved as well. But I think Buffalo, listen, when you talk AFC football this year, it's the Holy Trinity.
Right.
It's the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Buffalo Bills.
Now you didn't. It's funny because I was about to go to the AFC North. You didn't even mention Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Baltimore.
No, I didn't mention Cleveland. I didn't mention Cleveland for a reason. Everybody is digging up Cleveland. Everybody's talking about this Cleveland Browns team. I got people that got this Cleveland team in the AFC Championship game. Some have them in the Super Bowl. Respect the people that know football and I trust. But I'm looking at a Browns team that beat up on a historically bad NFC East last year. And then they had the big playoff win over the Steelers. These wins are not going to be as impressive. This year, they come out Kansas City Chiefs. It's like, okay, you want to play with the big boys? Now let's go. And let's see what you're made of. I like Kevin Stefanski. Obviously, you have a team that can run the football and play defense. That's very important. But at some point, Baker Mayfield is going to have to make a play. Is he going to be able to do it? I don't know.
So a couple things here. You had Pittsburgh winning 12 games, Baltimore winning 11, Cleveland winning 11. Obviously, going into Pittsburgh, thrashing the Steelers. I loved it because I hit the money line on that. 2 years ago, I thought there was too much hype by Cleveland. The same hype that was given to Tampa. I was proven wrong last year because I didn't ride on that Tampa wagon. You mentioned they opened against Kansas City, but then the Texans, the Bears, the Vikings, the Chargers, the Cardinals, and the Broncos. All right.
They can get hot.
That's my point. So now, let's just say, argument's sake, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Even if they're 6-2 going into that Steelers game, so that the first game of the season, tall order, no doubt, tough spot to be in. But what happens if they win that game? They might go on a little run to start the season. Now, all of a sudden, you're plus 7, 8, 9 into the season. I mean, I don't see a ton of really tough opponents. They've got Cincinnati, where the quarterback's coming off a major injury. They've got New England, young quarterback. They've got the Lions, They've got the Ravens, all right, back-to-back weeks. That's going to be tough. The Packers, the Steelers. The meat of their schedule is later on. I think they can pile up some wins early.
I don't like them to go AFC Championship game. They're not in the elite AFC teams, but they're a good AFC team. I think when I look at teams that I would say is, I think New England's probably going to be better than Cleveland. I think New England can be better than Cleveland this year.
Wow.
I think they trip up when they play inside their division, even with the Bengals. I think the Bengals could probably get them one, or it'll be tough games. And I think that game against New England, you're going to really see, okay, well, who is this next tier of AFC teams? The Patriots could be that team. I think the Patriots are a team that can beat the Cleveland Browns. I like to see how they compete against teams like the Chargers and the Broncos as well. The Broncos could be interesting. We've always talked about the Broncos roster, the Chargers roster, which is where they have a quarterback. Well, now the Chargers have a quarterback coming up for Rookie of the Year, and we got the Broncos with the steady hand and Teddy Two Girls, and man Teddy Bridgewater, who he's not going to win you many games, he's not going to lose you any games.
You're that high on New England.
I like New England a lot this year, and I'm going to do the numbers not like the Patriots at all. But I'm a big, big fan of Mac Jones. I just think that Mac Jones is a real good quarterback. I think what he's able to do, he's able to run Dr. Game's offense the way he wants it. And New England, much like Cleveland, strong on defense. They're going to run the football well, and they have now they have a quarterback who can utilize what the Patriots want to do. And that's when you saw them around and get Donald Smith and Hunter Henry, they want to work the middle of the field. Mac Jones is going to be able to work the middle of the field. If they had a playmaker that could top the top on the defense, they could really be impressive. But I think the Patriots are going to be an 11-1 team this year.
So, all right, they were – a lot of people think they're favored to go over 9.5 wins, and we have to remember that the league added that 17th game, which I don't hear a lot of sharps or bettors talking about that, right? That 17th game is a big one, especially if you're sitting at 6.5 and you need to get to 7 or 7.5, 8, whatever, or at least try to hit an under. So with the Pats, 9.5, I think that's current right now with Jones as the starter.
Yeah.
Okay.
9.5, I believe that's juiced to 130.
Okay, I see a couple of books have it at 120. I'll take your word for it. 130. I can't touch that. I think the Patriots are going to stink. I can't see them winning 9.
Really?
I can't see them winning 10. I'm going to tell you why. Because you look at Belichick, and obviously he realizes that Cam Newton's not the answer. There's going to be some substantial growing pains with Mac Jones. We already know that. I think the Jets are going to give them a run for the money. I think Miami can sweep them, and I think Buffalo can sweep them. So right there, you're basically looking at, even if they split with the Jets and they get swept by Buffalo, Miami, that's 5 losses right there. That's 5 losses.
That's interesting because I don't think they get swept by the Dolphins or the Bills.
Okay.
So that's probably where we differ at on that. And I think the thing that was missing from, no mind you, the team was not that bad last year. When Cam came back after COVID, they were pitiful. Cam couldn't move the football. You know what I'm saying? But now you got somebody that can move the football. Speaking of which, here's a play for week 1. Has that total risen yet? That Patriots Dolphins, when I saw it yesterday, it was still sitting at 44. 44 is the Cam Newton total. That's not a Mac Jones total.
No, under. You got to hit the under. You got to play the under.
You got to play the over. They're going to score more points with Mac Jones.
You think they're going to?
There's going to be more in shape offensively with Mac Jones.
I can't. I love your line of thinking. I get it, but man, I go to my grave with this. Offenses are always behind the defenses to open up the season.
That part is true. That part is true. But I think that Mac. I think when you look at that total, you look at a New England team that's going to slow down, run the football. I think we're going to see a more high open passing game for the Patriots this year. And like I said, I like Mac Jones. And for fantasy purposes, I love Damian Harris.
So then you're probably going to make a play on Mac Jones winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's 6-1.
Oh, yeah. Mac Jones, Rookie of the Year. Mac Jones rookie of the year. You want to take a long shot Patriots to win the AFC?
Man, the Patriots aren't paying you, are they?
No, they're not. And trust me, I've always spoke negative of the Patriots, but I'm very. I think Mac Jones is going to be very good.
All right. Hey, I want to switch gears for a couple moments with you. I don't know if you heard this. Shams tweeted out unvaccinated NBA players in markets with local requirements, such as the Knicks, the Nets, the Warriors, will not be allowed to enter home arenas or facilities for games or team activities conducted there unless there's approved medical or, you ready for this, religious exemption.
So, and listen, these leagues, there's money. This is financial implications right here.
Yes.
We've seen the NBA basically uproot this sport, put it inside a bubble. We've seen them come back with players on short rest, and now they're finally, almost 2 years later, they're finally getting back to some form of regular season. They are coming up this year, really coming up next month. So these guys, these owners, they don't care about your conspiracy theories or what you read on the internet. They want you to be in a place where they feel you're safe, and they want you to be able to enter the arena. Now, here's the thing. What happens when LeBron James says, I'm not going to do it? See, that's the game changer right there.
They're going to make concessions. You know it and I know it.
There you go. There you go. There you go. See, the NFL doesn't really have that player like that. The NBA has that player that's kind of bigger than the league, and that makes things difficult.
Well, what if Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, or Tom Brady said that? See, my whole...
Yeah. I'm on the fence with that. Listen, I think they're like those big quarterbacks, especially Brady, that's a lot, but I don't know if they have the kind of weight that LeBron James has.
Okay, but again, from a gambling standpoint, right, Tampa Bay's playing, I don't know, Tampa Bay's playing the Lions, and they're 8.5-point favorites, and all of a sudden, I got to use him as an example, but let's just say there's a situation where Brady decides, he might not be the best player, but I just want to use it from a betting standpoint. Yeah, that marquee player that just decides I'm going to go against the grain, I'm not going to confide in this. Now, what if I bet that game, right? Now I got to hedge it, right? Because that line's going to drop, especially if a quarterback's going to be out. See, that's what makes me nervous with the NBA and looking at some of these games. Because it's so hard to pick NBA games night by night. In the NFL, it's almost worse because I only have 17 weeks plus the playoffs. I don't have as much opportunity. I'm more inclined to go a little more heavier in my NFL bets than my NBA bets. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, no, I would agree with you on that too. I think in basketball, one player can affect the spread a little bit more than one player can affect the spread. In the NFL game, obviously the quarterback being very important to the spread. You'll see a spread change with a quarterback. In the NBA, you may see a 2 or 3 point switch, kind of like with your top level play.
Yeah, but don't you
think... The NBA is the sport to where the guy on the bench could almost be just as good as the guy on the court.
Yeah, I'll tell you, though, man, I've seen lines with the NFL, 3.5 point swing if that quarterback's out. I think the quarterback...
Yeah, the quarterback is very particular, very important to the spread.
Yeah. You know what? Two, before I let you get out of here, and we'll also touch on tonight's action. What's your make of what's going on in Philadelphia with Simmons?
They got to figure it out. Listen, I'm glad that Ben Simmons came through and said something. I hope he didn't think he was going to be back and do so peacefully. And I think Rich Paul obviously has something to do with it, where to get him to a place where his product could be a little bit better and maybe set him up. But listen, it's over. You know what I'm saying? You can't really walk back into that arena after that performance. Right? The players may take you, the coaches may take you, the city and the fan base is not going to take you. And then if you play for the 76ers, and when you get into the playoffs next year, if he starts passing the ball around when it's like a hot potato when it's time to shoot, it can get too ugly. A place like Golden State, which is the favorite right now, the betting favorite, is perfect because you don't have to shoot in Golden State. They got people to do that for you.
Are you taking the...
And Golden State needs a perimeter defender.
Yeah, I'll tell you, though, I think they overplayed their hand, the Sixers. You know, what they want back.
They asked for a lot, didn't they? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can't even bluff their way out of this one. Are you taking the Citadel plus 35 tomorrow night? That's the big question.
No, I haven't really done a lot for tomorrow night yet. Citadel not too far from me. 45 minutes from where I'm at right now. But I do like small schools, the FCS school, Jacksonville State, catching 16.5 against Alabama Birmingham.
You going FCS?
Birmingham.
You going FCS tonight on a play?
I got an FCS school for you. Mind you, Jacksonville State is one of the best FCS programs. 6-1 in the spring. I believe they lost in the semifinal in the FCS playoffs. UAB, very good team, very good Conference USA team. But I look at UAB and last season 2-4 as favorites, ATS. Jacksonville beat Florida National last year, had a halftime lead against Florida State. Jacksonville State, they're not going to beat UAB, but I don't believe UAB is 16.5 points better. I'm catching the 16.5 right now, and maybe around halftime or so, if I can come back to, by the way, end game in the middle of it, that would be a good idea. But I do like UAB to cover that 16.5 tonight. I do like the Jacksonville State, JSU Tigers, Gamecocks, to cover that 16.5.
I did read something that their schedule's like goofy, man. Jacksonville State. Yeah.
Well, because it's their first year in the Atlantic Sun, they're changing conference. They were in the Ohio Valley Conference, and this season they're going into the Atlantic Sun Conference. Which the Atlantic Sun has a lot of different new teams and stuff like that. So obviously it's never going to be that. They're not going to change the group of 5 into a group of 6. They don't have that much talent in it. You probably go to OVC first. But it's interesting to see Jacksonville State in that conference. Jacksonville State probably is just an enrollment away from being an FBS school.
That's it. The lines tomorrow night, obviously, they're ridiculously high. I mean, the one I might, even that North Carolina Virginia Tech. I don't trust North Carolina. I'll tell you what.
This will be good this year.
Yeah.
This will be good this year.
Yeah.
That quarterback might be a New York Giants quarterback next year, Sam Howell.
Come on, man. Can we just stop?
You might get some scouting tomorrow night.
No, man. Listen, I'm not going to sit there and scout and look at the no way, man. I mean, get a bridge. This is it for Daniel Jones. That's a story for another day. A couple lines that stood out for me for Saturday. That Wisconsin and Penn State, that 12 o'clock kickoff, you got a battle of two top 20 teams. Right now, Wisconsin's laying 5.5. And then I know you're going to think I'm crazy. How about Alabama? Alabama's given 19. They're laying 19.5 to Miami. I actually think Miami's going to cover the spread in that game.
Yeah, Miami will cover the spread in that game. Now, that spread should be about between that 14 to 17 range.
Yep.
That 19 was the public pushing that all the way up. When that number first opened up, that number was 17. Way back when they announced, when they started to look ahead lines, that was 17. That's the Alabama, and that's the most bet-on game of the week so far this week. As a matter of fact, it's the most bet-on game of the week by far. So that's definitely the public pushing that number up. I think Miami gets the cover in that one as well. And I like Boise to get the cover tomorrow night.
And I do like the
versus UCF.
I do like the over Clemson and it's escaping me.
Georgia. That's going to be a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, Clemson and Georgia. Well, I'm always a little nervous, right, with that 2.5, 3 for the home team, but I like that. That's a great matchup. Why not? And the total is 51. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game.
I would agree with you on that, man. I think that's going to be probably our best game of the weekend.
What do you got cooking? You got anything coming up that we can watch and view?
Right now, we're looking at later on this week. We start off together. Well, next week, look out for us on YouTube and on Peacock, actually. Bet the Board, myself, Drew Disnick, and Warren Sharp over there at NBC Sports Edge on YouTube. And then you have Peacock. That show will be debuting next week as well. So definitely looking forward to that.
Hey, I'm trying to find out if the American Basketball Association will post any lines.
If they do, I'm on it.
All right, I'm going to let you know. Trust me, I'll try to get an inside track on that. All right, pal. I always appreciate a couple moments.
All right, Rich, good time, man.
You got it, no doubt. Be well. There you have it, our guy, Corey Parsons, 5:30, quick timeout.